Yeah, thank you everyone for joining us with AWS. So we're going to talk about a real customer case study on how SUSE solutions help customers save millions of dollars from business disruption. And this is also a customer re-platform case. And our guest from AWS is going to explain why the customer made decision to re-platform from another Linux distro to SUSE. My name is Sherry Yu. I'm a Global Alliance Director at SUSE, focusing on SAP solutions. I've been working with AWS for the past couple years with a customer in SAP S/4HANA migration.
Hello, everyone. This is Nikhil Chetwani this side. I'm the Global SAP Partner Solution Architect at AWS. In my role, I work with different partners in helping them migrate the customer workloads, SAP workloads to AWS. Our global coverage, and I'm based out of Amsterdam, have about 13 years of experience in SAP and cloud. Yeah. So thanks, Sherry, for inviting me for this session.
So we're going to start with this real customer case study. And Nikhil is going to review the customer landscape. It's very large and comprehensive on AWS. And the challenges with the old platform that reached a point that customer was quite frustrated. Then the innovation between AWS and SUSE that addressed all the issues and all the benefits that they realized. And we also are going to summarize the best practice that you can adopt, not only just for that customer, but there are some common recommendations and the solutions that be adopted widely. And then we have a wrap up. We're going to give away some pointers to the references if you want to learn more about the solutions that are discussed in today's session.
So the customer case study in this case, in this story, is basically a customer based in North America from the information technology industry. Now, this customer had about 500 plus servers on AWS cloud. These are SAP servers. Now, these servers are for products like SAP S/4HANA, BW4HANA, MDG, GRC, SLT, and whatnot. On top of that, there were some arbitrary systems like Cloud Connector, Enterprise Portal, ADS, OpenText, and etc. Now, in total, 500 plus servers for these products, including production and non-production. Each of these products had different environments, let's say sandbox, dev, project, and production as well. And the production databases and applications were in an HA state with high availability, automated failover clustering, so that anything goes wrong on the primary node, automatically the application on the database fails over to the secondary node. That was the current state of the customer who was hosting their SAP workloads on AWS. Then why are we talking about this story if they are already on AWS? No. The thing is, this customer was hosting their workloads on AWS, but with not a SUSE operating system. It was with another Linux vendor. Okay, something the vendor name resonates with a cap, a red color cap. So different vendor. So yeah, customer were using that operating system. Okay, for their SAP HANA database and application workloads. Now, the problem, this customer was using 18 terabyte and 24 terabyte bare metal instances. On AWS, you can have instances, let's say for SAP workloads, right from 384 GB or 256 GB till 32 terabyte. But this customer was using 18 terabyte and 24 terabyte bare metal instances for their SAP HANA databases. What was the challenges with their platform? I gave you an overview about their SAP landscape, but what were the challenges of their old platform? Why did they have to migrate to, let's say, SUSE, okay, on AWS itself, since they're already on AWS, but with a different operating system? What were the challenges that we migrated them to SUSE? The first challenge which they were facing is frequent application downtime. Okay, I mentioned about failover clustering, then still application downtime? Yes, because their cluster was unstable. They were facing frequent application downtime. Why their cluster was unstable, I'll cover that in the next slide. Another issue was security vulnerabilities. They kept on getting numerous security vulnerabilities every day. Now, why can't they solve it? They can solve it, but they need a downtime to that because their patching process was manual. The operating system patching process was quite manual. They used to do patching every three months. So the security vulnerabilities keep on adding up. And after 3 months, when the patching schedule comes, they have to patch it manually and resolve those vulnerabilities. Okay, and because this involves a frequent downtime every 3 months to solve the security vulnerabilities, do the patching, this incurs some downtime on the systems. This incurs some business loss for the customers. Let's say the SAP system is not available for the person who's standing at the shop using the CRM systems to scan the products, to create invoices. If he's not able to use the system, this incurs downtime for them. Also, there's extra cost to do the patching on the weekends, get the resources available, and if after the patching something goes wrong over the weekend, that also involves some issues. So another issue which this customer was facing is the current operating system provider had issues with the support. The support process, which should have been easier for the customers. Let's say if any prio issue comes up, if you need a response time within 15 minutes, someone should be available within 15 minutes to assist you. That's not what's happening for this customer. Now, I mentioned about the frequent application downtime. Why this was happening is because of their index server overloading and crashing. So their index server was overloading and crashing on frequent basis. Now, this is not because of the other operating system provider. This is an SAP HANA database issue. But the problem on this operating system was that the drain out of the index server took an hour. So if even if after having a cluster, if an automated failover has to happen from primary to secondary node, it took about an hour to do the automated failover because this index server had a lot of memory, and this operating system process was that it took about an hour for the index server to drain out on the primary node, then the failover kicks in from primary to secondary node. And another issue which I mentioned about was security vulnerabilities. Everyday security vulnerabilities keep on popping up. So let's say when we assessed the system, there were about 60,000 security vulnerabilities in that system. Yeah, it could be in different quarter, it could be less, a bit more, but when we assessed, it had 60,000 security vulnerabilities. Why? Because they do patching once in a quarter. So it makes sense, right? Vulnerabilities will keep on adding up in your system. Then I mentioned about the manual operating system patching process, and this required a daily review for their systems so that they meet the compliance requirements.
So SUSE has answers. By working with AWS, we have been providing joint solutions for many years, and our solution focus on agility, reliability, security, and cost saving. And SUSE, with its thought leadership, is clearly a market leader in the SAP space, especially in helping customers with the SAP S/4HANA and the cloud migration. And particularly for these customers, those are the four core innovations that addressed the issues that Nikhil just mentioned. The first one is the exclusive high availability solutions. So SUSE is a developer of all the SAP HA solutions based on the pacemaker. And we often work with customers to address real-life challenges. And I'm going to talk about that particular challenge in the next slides in detail. And to resolve the security vulnerability, we provide live patching in both kernel and the user space. There is a very typical use case for very large HANA database by using the user space live patching. And the third one is the SUSE Manager. That's our lifecycle management solution that can streamline the lifecycle management. SUSE Manager has been made available on AWS and being adopted by a lot of large SAP customers. And the last one is the integrated support process. So when customers consume the pay-as-you-go images, they receive support even for the SUSE operating system and the SUSE solutions from AWS through the L1 and the L2 support. However, behind the scene, there is a hand-holding process between AWS and SUSE. So SUSE provides the L3 support to AWS. There are cadence meetings with between both parties to address the urgent issues or discuss solutions. So in many cases, when customer bring an issue to AWS, it's more or less a known issue. That's why AWS can provide timely support to address those issues. So this is the particular solution that customer suffered in the past because when index server, during the peak time, HANA index server may overload and crashes. For the very large HANA database, when the index server crashes, right, it takes a very long time for the service to fail completely. As you can see from step 2, 3, 4 to 5, that's the dying process, which means that the index server needs to drain the memory to a complete dead state. However, when the index server is in phase 2, 3, and 4, the status that's visible to cluster is in green and yellow state. So cluster by design doesn't take any action when the index server is in that state until step 5, when the HANA state turns into red. Cluster would be taking actions to take over. So step 2, 3, and 4 for very large HANA database in this case takes more than 1 hour. So the end result is it doesn't meet the SLA requirement. That's why it's called as a slow dying process. And in this case, because this is how HANA performs by design, so SAP doesn't have a solution at that time to speed up the dying process. So the customer asked SUSE to provide some solution. So SUSE's answer is to create a hook to proactively monitor the HANA state. And whenever there is a state change, it would check whether it's related to index server failure. If that's the case in step 2, it just killed the database and triggered the takeover when the system replication is in the healthy state. As the end result, the recovery time is essentially the time to perform the takeover, which is generally in minutes. So that's called a fast dying index server HA solution. This solution is supported on HANA 2.0 SPS 5 or newer. And at that point, that was only available from SUSE. And because of the success of the solution, we are recommending this one to any HANA deployment, whether it's a large or small HANA database, whether it's in scale up or scale out architecture. And at that time, it's been fully tested and supported on AWS. So another solution that the customer adopted is the live patching. So live patching is a mechanism to help customers avoid reboot for a CVE 7 or higher live patches for up to 12 months. That's very critical, right, for maintaining a production HANA database. And how it works is, in this analogy, the main road is the old state, the Linux state. And when live patch is applied, it's kind of building a bypass. And also the live patches, right, becomes the bypass and to route all the traffics. And this And this solution is persistent, which means when the customer decides to do a server reboot, and after the reboot, the live patches become the main road in this diagram. And that's why it's persistent, and all the changes are preserved after the reboot. And we provide not only the kernel live patches, but also the user space. The second one is the typical use case, the library, the key libraries that belongs to the user space. We support the live patches to glibc and OpenSSL, which are the dependencies of HANA. And without the live patches, whenever you patch these two libraries, you need to reboot the HANA database, which could be disruptive and result in very long reboot time for very large HANA database. So with live patches, they can avoid a reboot for up to 12 months for the critical security vulnerabilities. Another best practice that's adopted is to automate the patching process using SUSE Manager. And what's shown on the screen is a typical reference architecture that we highly recommend to the ACP landscape because every ACP deployment has 3 landscapes, dev, QA, then production. By using SUSE Manager, the customer can push patches through the 3 landscapes to maintain and ensure compliance. And with the help of SUSE Manager, they can also identify live patches within SUSE Manager. So it can help also automate the patching process to reduce complexity and save cost.
So the benefits for this customer for the re-platforming. So now this customer, we understood they had the issues, and this is why they migrated to SUSE operating system, that's particularly SLES for SAP on AWS. And what were the benefits for this re-platforming? The first one is basically SLES for SAP provides more robust security and patching options. We understood the options which the customer chose was basically the live patching they chose because it is available within SLES for SAP. Another one which we mentioned about the index server crash. If we have to drain out the index server quickly so that if anything goes wrong on the index server, if we want to fail over to the secondary node, okay, and if we want to drain the index server within few minutes, then SLES for SAP has an exclusive feature which is not available with other competitors to drain out the index server within few minutes so that you can automate you can do the failover to the secondary node within few minutes itself. And we provided all these benefits, live patching, quick failover to the secondary node for this customer. We did all this re-platforming per server, per server with only 3 hours of downtime. When I say this 3 hours of downtime, this only involved basically, this just required a ramp down and ramp up. Okay, ramp down because before you switch off the system and application, you look at the different components which are affected with it, and you switch them off as well in an order, and then ramp up. You switch them on also in that order, and then you do some basic level testing. No impact on existing functionality or performance for the customer because we didn't change the instance type, we didn't change the storage type for the customer, we only did the re-platforming, we just changed the operating system for this customer. And how we did it? So basically, what we did for this customer is that we provisioned the target environment with SLES for SAP operating system for this customer on a different server. Let's say it's an S4HANA system. We provisioned another S4HANA system with SLES for SAP as an operating system well in advance, okay, with the same instance type. But what we did is basically during the cutover, we removed the volumes from the source and mounted on the target, okay. This is done to optimize the downtime. Okay, we didn't have to do the HANA database backup restore or HANA system replication. That could have taken a bit more time. Okay, or maybe a little more efforts. Not time, maybe a little more efforts because HANA system replication it keeps on going in the background, right? But it involves efforts. But what we did is just unmount the volumes from the source and mounted it on the target. We didn't change the instance type at all. It remains the same. So this reduced the downtime for the customer, and in addition to the EBS volume unmounting and mounting, we also did the DNS change. We changed the host names on the DNS so that obviously it comes with a new IP address with a new DNS. That's what we did, change this for the customer. And this can change with every customer to customer, the DNS changes. So yeah, the new instances were available with SLES for SAP, with the existing volumes mounted with the existing data within 3 hours per system, per server. What I'm talking about is 3 hours of downtime. And then the benefit what the customer gets is the live patching we just spoke about. We also spoke about a faster failover to the secondary node. And yes, the security vulnerabilities get resolved much faster as compared to their previous option where they were.
So regarding the savings, SAP customers tend to host mission-critical business applications, and especially by using the large HANA databases, right? Those are the high-impact business applications. So each downtime, right, represents 1 million per hour. And in this case, right, the customer was able to save 1 million per hour from the HANA index server failure by using the HA solutions. And they also able to save 1 million per hour from having to reboot after the patching process by using the live patching. And also by automating the patching process, they also saved over 200 man-hours per year, right, from manual patching process. So the end result is millions of dollars of savings in 1 year. So we want to talk about some best practices that the general customers can also adopt.
So when it comes to best practices for SAP workloads on AWS, the first thing what we inform, whether it's a customer or a partner, is AWS well-architectured framework for SAP lens. So within AWS, any workload you deploy, we have our own architectural principles. We have published a white paper as well for this. That's AWS well-architectured framework. Any workload you deploy on AWS, it should adhere to the principles mentioned in AWS well-architectured framework. And now within this framework, we have specific lens dedicated for SAP workloads as well. Okay. So what is this well-architectured framework? We have 6 pillars within this framework. First one is operational excellence, security, reliability, performance efficiency, cost optimization, and then sustainability. That's the new pillar which got added very recently. So any workload when you deploy on AWS, they should follow the best practices mentioned in all these 6 pillars. Okay, you should have your workloads checked, okay, green against almost all the recommendations mentioned in these 6 pillars, okay? And now we have dedicated lens available for SAP workloads as well. Any customer can get their workload reviewed against well-architectured framework, whether it's an SAP or non-SAP, at free of cost from AWS, and obviously with their supporting partner. Or they can themselves also do a review of their workload against the principles mentioned in this framework directly from the AWS console. Within the AWS console itself, you can do a well-architectured review. But if you are unable to do that, if you need some help, AWS can help you out, and we won't charge you at all. And we work with our partners, whichever partner is working with you, we can work with them together to do this review, or we can do it alone with you itself. Okay. Now, even before you do the review, when it comes to, let's say, a new workloads are deployed on AWS, let's say an ex-customer comes and wants to do a greenfield S/4HANA deployment on AWS, they approach a partner, and a partner in turn approaches us as well. So we work with partner, and the recommendations we give to you right before the deployment itself, we give you according to the well-architectured framework. So let's say, for example, we'll cover the RPO, RTO, SLAs, we'll talk about the instance type, we'll also ask you about your sustainability requirements, and accordingly recommend you an infrastructure which would be supported or by SAP and AWS, as well as it also meets your requirements. And this well-architectured framework review, ideally, if you have, let's say, you should still, even after giving the recommendations to you before the deployment, you should still get it done before you actually go into the production scenario. Let's say if you have migrated your non-production environments and now before you have done some dry runs, at that time you can do a secure, well-architectured framework review get it done by AWS or your partner to see what changes you can bring to your landscape to make it more sustainable, more performance efficient, and more cost efficient as well, and more secure. Another best practice which we recommend to customer, this is a must, okay, is AWS Launch Wizard. So you can automate your deployments of your SAP workloads on AWS with AWS Launch Wizard. AWS Launch Wizard is a DevOps service provided by AWS to deploy your SAP workloads on AWS. When I say deploy your SAP workloads, whenever you, let's say if you want to deploy an S4HANA environment on AWS, you would first select a server, then download software, migrate those software to the VM, then get a basis guy who would then start install HANA database, then start SWPM install application. If it's a cluster scenario, then he'll take 2 days to create a cluster configuration as well. Okay, so it involves 2 to 3 days of installation time of a basis consultant to do the cluster configuration, HANA database installation, application installation, and whatnot. How about we automate this entire task for you within 2 hours, at max 2 hours. So if you want to automate your deployment of your SAP application, database, cluster configuration within 2 hours, then Launch Wizard is your answer. And by the way, we don't charge you for this service. It's free of course, okay? By using Launch Wizard, you can automate deployments for your S4HANA, BW4HANA, SAP NetWeaver, Solution Manager, Enterprise Portal, for HANA database, and then for Sybase database as well, by the way. Yeah, that got added very recently. And not just deploy. Let's say if you want to configure your backups of your system before even the server gets deployed, it has backup enabled. You can do that as well. And this deployment is not done via custom tools. We are using the SAP recommended approach, that's the SWPM in the background, which gets triggered when you use Launch Wizard. So again, for this customer itself as well, we are using Launch Wizard. Okay, we released Launch Wizard, I remember somewhere in 2020. Yeah, 2020 we released Launch Wizard, and we keep on releasing new updates on Launch Wizard every quarter. There's new updates coming on Launch Wizard. So yeah, that's a recommendation. Do use Launch Wizard, okay? And we recommend this to our partners, to all our customers, the free service. Again, for this customer as well, which we explained over here, they use the same Launch Wizard to deploy their SLES for SAP environment on AWS before doing the migration or replatforming.
So on top of AWS cloud infrastructure, there are various SUSE solutions that can be adopted. So it starts from the auto-tuning. So Subtune is a daemon that runs at the background of the SAP SLES for SAP applications instance. A lot of customers describe Subtune as being able to do magic, because what it does is to gather the best practice guidance from SAP notes and carry out without customers having to know which are the changes required. It just gathered parameters from SAP note and deploy on the SLES for SAP applications. And we keep Subtune up to date, which means whenever there are changes in the SAP node, we update Subtune accordingly. So you don't have to keep tracking on the changes. And it's developed in a way that you don't even have to remember which SAP nodes are required. You just specify your workload, whether it's for HANA, for NetWeaver, or a combination of application servers and HANA. And even you can create your own profile. So that's very useful in a very large SAP environment. And the second one is the high availability solutions. As I mentioned that SUSE is a developer of the pacemaker-based HA solution for SAP HANA, S/4HANA, and NetWeaver. And we support various scenarios. And also, if you attended a session yesterday by Lars and Fabian, they announced the next generation HANA resource agent. And so if you are interested in the HA solutions, right, I do recommend to listen to the recording of that session because we have exciting new solutions coming up to enhance the performance behavior of the HA solutions for HANA. The next one is the security. So we provide stick and CIS-based security hardening, and we even pre-built hardened for SAP application images available on AWS Marketplace. So the customer can use this pre-hardened image as a baseline. And based on your data center requirement, right, you can also further tune and apply additional security rules. But this is a very well-tested baseline to adopt. And another one is the live patching, for the security vulnerability. And next one is the lifecycle management. As I mentioned that the SUSE Manager is the standard for your lifecycle management. And in case you have a mixed Linux distro environment, SUSE Manager is the only commercially available tool that can manage mixed Linux environment. So for example, some customers still have Oracle database, and in the cloud on AWS, owning Oracle Linux is supported for Oracle database and the primary and additional application servers. And in that case, the customer can also rely on SUSE Manager to manage Oracle Linux. That's a very typical use case. And the last one is monitoring. So we provide a solution with code name Trento to not only monitor your SAP landscape, but also can validate the configuration. The reason why we created Trento is a lot of major outages are actually the result of accumulated minor issues that could have been remediated if a customer had a very good insights. So this tool is developed to continuously validate the configuration, especially the cluster setup, and also help identify drifts in day-to operations. In the showcase, right, on the show floor, we have one demo station where you can take a look at Trento. So another important aspect is to optimize spending. And to get started, AWS provide a migration acceleration program MAP to help you with the credits. And you can start with pay-go hourly image. And after standardization, and you get a better understanding of the size of your deployment. And that time, then you can apply long-term savings to your SAP environment. And by either, you can convert your pay-go instances into discounted annual commitment. And SUSE has a team that help customers with that conversion to help save cost. And as in the today's keynote, there is also multi-product listing on AWS. Then the customer can get, that's another form of discount that the customer can acquire from SUSE to get saving on the SLAS for SAP applications as a special contract called multi-product listing.
So you can get help from our support and services from both AWS and SUSE side. For example, from AWS side, if the customer has business support, enterprise support, they can get support. Let's say, for example, if they have enterprise support, they can get a dedicated TAM manager to assist get assistance in any kind of issue they have. And also, depending upon the type of support, business or enterprise you choose, you get the exact response time. For example, if you need within 15 minutes of response on any prior one related issues, then you can go for enterprise support, where you can quickly get response to any kind of issues you have on your system, whether it's an OS issue, database issue, OS issue, or it's a server issue or a storage issue. We would have network issue. We would help you out. And we work with we work with SAP competency partners. As of April, we had 91 SAP competency partners. We have a checklist on which we approve a competency partner. As of April, we had globally about 91 SAP competency partners whom we work with to deploy the SAP workloads or migrate SAP workloads to AWS Cloud. And for SUSE,
so yeah, on the SUSE side, we also provide various services customized based on the customer needs. The first one is SUSE Assist. It's an optimization services, aka health check. So it normally starts with a 1 week commitment. Our consultant would get access to your landscape and assess the setup and configurations based on the best practices. We typically recommend a health check in certain situations. First one is if you have a GSI or a third party do the configuration for you after turnkey. And if you suspect there are some issues, right, then you can get a health check to get an overview of the setup. And another situation is after running for maybe several years, right? After various changes and customization to and upgrade to an existing landscape, getting a health check would be helpful to identify any drifts or issues, and also health check may discover new solutions that has not yet been adopted in your existing landscape. So that's a very popular service. I often heard that the customer start with 1 week assessment, but very often our consultant would discover various situations that may need customer get help from other type of consulting services, because a health check doesn't change your environment. They discover issues in your environment and provide suggestions. The second one is premium support. It's highly recommended for customers with a high availability situation. Yeah, because SUSE is the expert in that. And this is a dedicated person who is familiar with your landscape. So they provide not only like escalation for bugs, but also can provide a roadmap review, etc. And the last one is Premium Technical Advisory Services, PTAS. Okay.
So, yeah, almost we're done with the session. The last points. What would be the key points to take away from here? We usually call it as, within the AWS language, you call it as call to action. So the call to action points for the session would be, if you want to consider to see if you can migrate to AWS or to migrate to SUSE platform, you can schedule a discovery workshop with us, together with AWS and SUSE, where we would come and assess your landscape. Within AWS, we also have worked with GSI partners when it comes to doing the assessment, doing discovery workshop as part of MAP program, which was mentioned in the previous slide. We also provide required funding so that the customer, you do not have to spend money from your pocket to do that discovery, to that assessment. We would do it free of cost for you, because we would fund that assessment. We would pay the GSI partner who would do the assessment for you. In this assessment, we would assess the improvement points. We would discuss about your RPO, RTO, and SLA requirements. We would obviously suggest, if you do not have any partner, if you need any recommendation, we would suggest you the right partner as well. As I mentioned, we have about 91 partners with SAP competency. and then we would help you give you recommendation, give you how your target landscape should look like, what best practices you should follow to migrate. Let's say when you're on premises to AWS with SUSE as an operating system, what migration tools you can use to reduce your migration downtime based on your requirements. If required, we can also provide you funding to do the proof of concept of your target SAP workloads on AWS, and then we can start with the migration project. And within the migration project also, we would help you with some investments from AWS side to reduce your migration costs, so that you actually do not have to pay anything when you migrate from on-premises to AWS. So we will help you with the incentives in the migration phase as well. So under the MAP program, which was mentioned a slide before, that's called as Migration Acceleration Program. Within that, we provide you investments in the assessment phase, in the mobilize phase where you can do a POC, and then comes the migration or the modernization phase where you actually do the migration of your workloads to AWS. So yeah, that's it from my side.
Yeah, we have some links to further readings, and there are a lot of materials and collaterals available already. I believe the slide deck will be made available after SUSECon, so please feel free to check those links for more detail. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.